friends, I'm Josie, and if you are new here, I previously lived on a homestead for about a year, and now I moved it back to the subdivision that we have owned since about we've owned this house for 5 years, I believe. So I know a little bit about both. I know a lot about subdivisions and things like that, and I know some or a lot about homesteading as well. So I thought I would put on this mini series for us just to chat and for us to be able to, just see what homesteading is really like and different things about the homesteading aspect and things like that. So first off, I think I want to start with what have I learned when I was homesteading for a year. So now, since I'm back in the subdivision and me thinking about it, what have I learned about myself? Because after you live a certain type of lifestyle, even if it's not for very long or doesn't seem to be much to anybody else, it brings different aspects to your life where you learn more about yourself, which is amazing, because I think we all want to learn as much as we can about ourselves to be able to judge situations and things like that a little bit better. So whenever we moved onto our property, we had 6 acres of land. We put a mobile home on it. It was brand new. And so whenever we moved onto our 6 acres of land, we had put a mobile home, brand new, 5-bedroom, 3-bath home onto the property, and we started doing everything that we can to that property. So first off, what I have learned is moving an hour away from work is something that I really don't want to do. That drive, an hour and 5 minutes to and from work, is very exhausting. Not only that, I think when I think of simpler life and things like that, I think about spending more time with my family, so that I can actually, do more with them and interact with them more, especially my children. And driving an hour and 5 minutes from and to work limits that time that you have with your children. So I would get off of work, let's say if you work at 8 to 5, like my husband, he works 8 to 5. So he would have to leave an hour and 20 minutes early for work so that he could get to work on time and also miss traffic. And then whenever he would come home, he wouldn't get home until between 6:05 to 6:15, depending on the traffic and things like that. So 6:15, let's say he gets home, we have dinner ready whenever he gets home. We eat, probably take us about, 30 minutes to eat. So that's already 6:45. And then my husband still needs to take a shower. And then we also, need to spend a little bit of time with our kids. My youngest goes to bed at 7:30, and then my older 2 go to bed at about 8:30. So that doesn't leave much room for us to be able to actually spend time with our children. So that's one thing that we realized very soon that we do not want to sacrifice, is time with our children. That long drive, not only that, is very exhausting. After a little bit, you do get used to it, but at the same time, once you have these cars that are taking up tons of gas and you have to fill up your gas tank every 2 days, and it's costing you between $65 and $80 every time that you have to fill up, it's exhausting and it's expensive. So that is one thing I've learned, that our next property, if we decide to go that route, will be closer to work. It will be no more than 30 minutes away from work. So right now, where we live in our subdivision, we are about 10 minutes away from work, which is amazing. But of course, as of right now, I'm having to take the kids to their school about 30 minutes away. But that is okay because it's almost the end of school. Another thing that we have realized is what you see everywhere online about homesteading isn't necessarily true. So a lot of people say that whenever you start homesteading, that things are a lot cheaper than what they were when you were in like a subdivision or something, or wherever you were prior to a homestead. And I would like to say that is most definitely not true. I did not experience that whatsoever. And actually, to build your homestead, if you're just starting off with nothing, and to build your own homestead, that means you're not going out to buy a home with property and infrastructure already on that property. When you're starting from nothing, then it is very, very expensive. And we knew that it was going to be expensive going into it. That's why we did different things to be able to save up more money, and so that we could move out there. So, you have to pay for your home. So your home, if you start out raw, it's going to have to, depending on what kind of home you want, and if it's your forever home or not, that can get expensive. Our house was $200,000, and it's expensive. And then we also had to put down $10,000 up front for our home. So after that $10,000 that we had to put on our home, now it's time to start preparing our land so that that home can even be on the property. So whenever you get a home, no matter if it's a mobile home or if it's a stick-built house or whatever you decide to get, you're still going to have to add your septic tank. Our septic tank was $10,000 roughly. And then you have to pay for your electricity to come out to your property. If it's not at the street, then you will have to get it. So then you have to think about electricity. If you don't have electricity at your street, it will be way more expensive. But we had it at our street, so it wasn't much of an issue to get it to our property, actually. And our utility company would pay for a certain distance for them to run out the power, but then we still had to get a meter loop pole, which was $1,000, and we also had to get that ran to the house. That was more money as well. Not only that, we had to even be able to get on our property or to get the house onto the property, we had to have a culvert and get that installed. And we don't have any type of heavy equipment or anything like that. So that cost us about $1,000, I want to say. And then we had to do a driveway, and that was about $3,000 for that. And then to run our water lines from the street to our house was $3,000. To get our water meter, it was $500. So all of these things start adding up and adding up. And not to mention, if you have any type of animals, or if you are wanting just for your children to be a little bit safer, or try to keep animals out, then you also have to build a fence around your property. And let me tell you, fencing is not cheap whatsoever. So we just had the T-post fencing with the wire that we ran. And it was pricey. Like, it was very expensive. And we only did, I'll say about 2.5 acres is what we had fenced off, because that's all of our property that was cleared. And the rest is wood, so we didn't feel like going inside the woods. Not to mention, it would be a lot more expensive. So after all of that, we could have got like a $500,000 house in a subdivision that was really nice with the pool and everything else, and a little bit of a yard, for the amount of money that we paid to put into this homestead. So homesteading is not cheap whatsoever. So just to be able to live onto our property was very, very expensive. Now let's get into the things that everybody loves to do whenever they do homestead is chickens. Everybody loves to have chickens. That is like their gateway animal for the homestead. And chickens are relatively expensive when you're buying them. So that really wasn't a problem, but it was to buy their chicken coop or build their chicken coop along with fencing for them and everything that they need to be able to be safe or to be able to free range is expensive as well. And everybody says, oh, go ahead and get chickens, they'll pay for themselves and stuff because you will have eggs, which as of right now with the egg prices are going up, then I'm sure they're possibly paying for themselves. But before that, they weren't really paying for themselves. And also, if you can't use all those eggs or if you can't sell them eggs, then they can end up going to waste. So you have to learn how to preserve them in a way that you can be less wasteful. And that also costs more money. So you would have to buy different things like big half-gallon jars or gallon jars to be able to preserve them in like a water glass method and stuff like that, or a freeze dryer to freeze dry them. And freeze dryers, I don't know if y'all know, but they are between $3,000 to $6,000, I believe, and that's very expensive. So it's expensive, and so yes, but as of right now, I think our chickens are at the point where they are, like we have a certain amount of people who buy eggs from us each week. So we go put that straight towards their food. And I'm saying that because if you are new, my sister does still live out on the property, but we moved out here back to our home. So we still have the chickens. I still get eggs and stuff for free. And if she needs any help with the chickens or anything like that, we go help. I have a couple people that I set up to get eggs from us weekly, so that takes care of my portion of the feed that I would have to feed them. And if she needs help cleaning the coop or anything like that, I'm more than willing to go out there and help her. But yeah, so let's go ahead and move on to the next thing. So the next thing is a garden. A garden is very expensive as well, depending on where you live, how your yard is, and a lot of different other factors will depend on how expensive this garden is going to cost you. If you are able to do an in-ground garden, then I'm so envious of you because I would love to do an in-ground garden. It's so much more affordable, but for some reason, at every place that I have been, I have not been able to have an in-ground garden. So on our property, it's nothing but rocks. So I would have had to build up quite a bit to be able to have anything down. And then at that point, in my opinion, I just need to go ahead and do raised beds. And then here I am now at the end of where I have my garden beds right now. At the end, it gets really wet if it rains a lot, and then the water just holds in the bottom of my yard. So with me being able to have the raised beds, it helps, not let my plants all wash away, or it helps them from not getting drowned out or anything like that, because they're so high, they're much higher up than what the water is sitting down at the bottom of the raised beds. So raised beds are very expensive. I think for our wood, well, we got some metal. When we first moved out there, we got metal ones. And we got those off of Amazon. And for each one, I think there were $160. And we got 8 of them. And then we built 2 more, 2 wood ones that we built. And then we also built some more before I left. And then they were supposed to be coming with me, but I don't have enough room. So I let Lacey have them. And so that just is expensive in itself. And then you have to bring in dirt to fill that stuff. So the dirt, to get it brought out to you very far away, is very expensive. Because we live so far away from anything, then they add an extra hefty fee for them to be able to go get it and bring it to you. And we needed more than 1 truckload of dirt. So that was very expensive as well. Even if you were to do it yourself, I think we did that at one point, it's still very expensive because of gas and going out there and your time and all of that stuff. And we don't have any of the equipment that you might need, so it's very hard to do that. A garden can be expensive as well. And then you have to factor in like the different things you have to pay for your garden, your trellising systems, your watering systems if you're going to do anything like that, and all of just this different stuff for your garden that you will have to pay for too. It's not inexpensive at all. So that is another thing just to think about is, you know, just the price. The pricing of things is very a misconception, I guess, in the homesteading community. So I say all of that about the homesteading cost, just a thing like now I know how much it really cost, and now that has been factoring into my decision on what I want to do in the future. So another thing that I have learned is that I don't know how much property I want. I was thinking whenever I first started, when we were first starting to look for property, that I wanted like 10 acres of land, and this and that. And then after I moved out to my property, you know, of course we were researching things more and trying to figure out things more. And, you know, to even be able to have a cow, you need at least an acre for that cow. But with me, in my opinion, if I am going to raise a cow, I want it to be grass-fed, grass-finished, if possible. Or even a little bit of a grain at the end is fine. But if I don't have enough property for that cow, then what's the point of me using that space on my property for a cow when I can go source a cow from a farmer and pay them $5 a pound for a whole cow? And that's what we do as of right now. So I don't see anything wrong with me being able to source out a farmer to be able to do that, because at the end of the day, we are a community and we need to support each other. Another thing that I have been thinking as well is my garden. I'm trying it here, but I don't even think I need that big of a garden unless I'm wanting to do different stuff. I think if I can garden correctly in the small space that I have, and succession garden, then I won't even need as big of a garden as I have. Last year, whenever we were at the property, we were able to put up almost enough tomato sauce for the wintertime, which is amazing because we only had like 10 beds. And then ketchup, we were able to have enough for the whole winter. We didn't have to buy any until I was moving out, which is amazing. So I think if I plan it right and plan my garden right, then I can have a small garden and still be able to get a good amount of food out of my garden that I want, and to be able to have for my family and to be able to preserve for my family. Also, I have figured out a lot more about smaller, you know, in gardening as well, which is awesome because, I mean, if you don't need all that space, why have it? So we are going to try that this year and then go from there. And if I need to add some stuff or change some stuff around or learn more, then I'm totally up for that. Another thing that I have learned in that year of homesteading is make sure you are aware of the property that you are getting. Make sure you are aware of that location. So I'm saying this because our land was owner finance. And I don't think we were thinking much about it at the time, but when you owner finance with the person we went through, you only put about like $600 down. You make the monthly payment and you're fine. You sign a contract and stuff and you're fine until you pay it off. Or if you don't want it anymore, you can just give it back and it's no penalty, no cost to you. Besides whatever, like the water and stuff like that you might have had on your property stays. So with that being said, I mean, it brings any type of people to your area. So that it can be a bad thing depending on what kind of people you live around. So where we lived, there were people who just had sheds that they were using as their homes. There were alcoholic people out there. There were people who were just trying to get away from, I guess society, and it's all for a reason, if you know what I'm saying. And I understand people living in sheds and things like that, but it comes down to a point where if I ever wanted to sell my property, then those properties are bringing my property level value down because of that. So I guess, you just need to be aware of who is going to be your neighbor and who can be your neighbor and how easy or hard it is to be able to get that property. So another thing that I have learned is also that, it is very expensive to homestead, but with homesteading, eventually you will be able to start making your money back if you do it correctly, and you can start saving money. But it can take up to some years to be able to get to that point, just because it does cost. It does take lots of time to be able to do what you need to do to your property to make it into the homestead that you have always wanted. So, it's just hard, sometimes to think about and to actually know what you really want to do. Of course, I would love to have a property that's 30 minutes from my job and have 10 acres of land and stuff like that. And if I can find something like that already has a home on it, then I am all for it. But if I cannot find anything like that, then I'm fine in a subdivision as well. I'm fine in a subdivision as long as it's a good area, a good place for my children, and I'm okay with that as long as I can have a little bit of space for a garden that I need that will provide food for me and my family for a year. Then I am totally okay with wherever we live. And I hate that it took me this long to be able to figure that out, but in the end, we always have to learn something. We always have to go through a rough spot to be able to learn different things. And I think that's kind of what we went through. But I am also glad that we were able to do it and see, everything. But in the end, Mike really did not want to move that far away from the house. From the job. He just did it because we all wanted to do it. And I thank him a lot for that, just because, he was just trying to do what we wanted to do. And, yeah. So, I'm very thankful. And I'm also very thankful for my sister and my brother-in-law as well, But after living like that for a year, you do end up learning a lot about yourself. And things end up changing, So just always, think the whole process through. Think about what you can start doing now, not living inside of a homestead or in a homestead, that you would do on a homestead. Because a lot of the things that people consider homesteading, it's a lot of stuff that you can do in a subdivision as well. You don't have to have property to do a lot of this stuff. When it comes to animals, you might need some, but I will make a video about that next in this little chatty thing. But let me know down in the comment section down below if you've ever homesteaded, what have you learned? Or if you are currently homesteading, what have you learned about yourself during that process? I would love to know, and I would love to communicate with you all. If you haven't already, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to my channel, maybe even share it with a friend, and I will see you next time.